Hello and welcome to another episode of the Young Tongues podcast. My name is Barbara Fountain and I am the founder and CEO of the Young Tongues, a peer-to-peer support group for young tongue cancer patients. And with me is my beautiful, amazing co-host, Jamie. Welcome and good morning to you.
Good morning, or no, good afternoon for you. I'm still in my robe. I'm very...
Well, it is 5:30 a.m., which is like a whole new level of commitment, Jamie. Who even is up that time in the morning?
It's funny because I'm usually very routine in my morning, so I'm usually up at 4:30, and this has been a crazy week with kids being sick, me being sick, and I'm directing a show for children's theater, so it's like being pulled in all different directions that I forgot to set an alarm this morning, and my body just woke up at like 4:55, so I feel like I'm like behind. Hence why I'm like this.
That's incredible. You get up at 4:30. Have you always been a morning person? Do you go to bed early, or how do you?
Yeah, I go to bed. I've never been this early of a morning person, but since I physically have to like pull my mouth down, like to get my mouth open with my hand, so I start my 4:30 routine to start stretching out my mouth, and then by like 5 I usually work out.
Wow,
that's been my routine for almost 5 years.
That's amazing. I am nothing like that. I go to bed late and I struggle to get out of bed in the morning. And if I'm having like fatigue days, you know, I might roll out 10, sometimes 11. But I don't have children, so I have that luxury of,
you know what? My husband still on the weekends rolls out of bed at, 10 and so well rested while I've been up because my kids like don't sleep. And funny enough, those who have children can understand that on school days you have to wake them up, but on the weekends they're up like hours before they would normally get up for school, so it's challenging.
I hear you. Oh, bless you. Right, so I guess it's been a few weeks since we've seen each other. It's February now.
God.
We've just had...
Oh my God.
I know, it's just like this at the moment. We've just had World Cancer Day a couple of days ago. I guess let's just have a catch-up. How's life? I just see you totally missed that. You're like, oh, World Cancer Day, hello.
I'm like, oh, Cancer Day. Is that different here than in the... Sorry, I'm like plugging my computer. Is that different here than in the States? Or is it like...
Nope.
But by you mean world, you mean everybody.
It's fine. You missed it this year. Hey, that's a really good sign, isn't it? It means that you are busy doing
distracted.
Other things.
Yeah, I did. I missed it. What else did I miss? What else happened?
That was the main thing. And to be fair, it came up with a memory from last year where you did a really great post. So that's fine. So you did it last year.
Oh, shit.
I reshared you last year and this year. Yeah, I quite liked this year. They did the World Cancer Day campaign team. They did this thing where they asked people to post upside down photos to sort of illustrate how cancer has impacted their life and turned their life upside down.
Wow. That's cool. To like visualize like that one.
Jamie, what the hell are you doing?
I don't know.
We're a totally professional podcast here.
We're good.
Are we good? Are you all plugged in? It's okay. It's very early.
I'm telling you, like, okay, I know, like, it's rough as it is, but I haven't been, like, a cold sick in, like, a long time, so I forget how, like, that affects really everything, and the cold. I know it's not really cold here in Southern California, but if it drops below, like, 70, we're, like, freezing. But, like, it's just, I forgot, like, how, like, when you're sick, you can't really, like, function, but you have to, so you're kind of, like, I tried to take NyQuil. Oh, my God. That was, like, an experience. NyQuil's like a cough like when you have a cold, you take like a nighttime like liquid, and it's
like
like
night
this
nurse.
green.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
but that-
it's called night
That
nurse.
sounds so. Oh my god, that sounds like well. That sounds so much more night nurse, naughty and pleasant, I guess. Ours is NyQuil, and I tried to take it, but it has like this mint in it, which are like menthol, I guess, to like help, and it just did the opposite. So I thought I could be normal and take stuff, but no, mint still like throws me off. I can't do it.
No, so I had it. I can't remember. I feel like I'm sick all the time, but I had a really bad cold end of last year, wasn't it? And it was just, I felt so sorry for myself. I was just like, come on, a cold is not meant to feel like this. But yeah, your mouth's on fire and everything's just a bit.
So like you forget, like it does have a different, because I haven't been sick and so like that sick. I'm like, oh, everybody has the flu here. Like I sent 6 kids home on Monday because they were barfing. I was like, oh, this is so gross. Anyway, so I'm like trying to, I mean, I got to take zinc. I got to take all this stuff. But like all the stuff's in pill form. I was like, they need to have stuff in liquid form of every single thing to help. Like here, there's not a lot of liquid form, but yeah. What are we talking about? I'm here. I feel much better. I'm functioning. Yeah. We're here.
Like we do most of the time, kind of it, but not quite.
Yeah. Like you're functioning, but you're not present. But I feel like I'm present. 78%.
Well, we have a lot going around in the UK at the moment. January was really bad. I think everyone I knew just had this really bad flu. Where they were just down for weeks. So probably still a post-COVID effect of, our body's getting used to, germs, what is this? So there we go.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what else have you done since January? You've gone back to work. The kids are back at school. You are choreographing, directing a show.
Yeah. So I'm directing, and I choreographed a show for the kids theater. We're doing Beetlejuice Junior, so it's a very watered down version of the Broadway show. But I had to build a sandworm, like...
I saw that on Instagram.
Yes, because there's a sandworm in the show that comes and like eats Beetlejuice, and it's in the movie. It's that giant like claymation type thing, Tim Burton, So I was like, I don't like crafts. Like I hate arts and crafts. If you invite me to like a party where we're drinking wine and painting or like gluing shit to something, I'm gonna say no. I hate crafts. So I volunteered myself to make this thing. And I was like, how the hell am I going to make this? It turned out so good, but it was amazing how much my like mind got wrapped up in this. So I was like, I have to make this thing out of a waste basket, and it was everything from the Dollar Tree, which is Pound Town for you, which I think is hilarious.
Poundland.
Oh.
Yeah. Poundland. Like Disneyland, but Poundland. And by the way, because of inflation, everything's more expensive than a pound.
Yeah, ours is like $1.25. Yeah. So it's not a Dollar Tree; it's $1.25. Yeah. That's a bummer. But anyway, tonight's opening night, and we made it. And I feel like after Saturday, like I get to rest because now my kids only have 3 activities going on, or 2 activities instead of 3. So it's like one thing done. But then we have this stupid thing called the Super Bowl on Sunday that we host every year. So I have that on top of. Yeah, but that's like my husband's like,
But what a party! What a party! Is it your team this year or?
No, who is? Oh, it's the Taylor Swift team. And
I am free.
That's who it is.
I'm 100% sure that the people who are actually fans of the Eagles, the Taylor Swift team. Yeah. Okay, but to be fair, I know now who you mean. They play in red. There you go.
Yes, exactly. The Chiefs. The Chiefs.
The Chiefs.
The Chiefs versus the Eagles, which I feel like they've played a Super Bowl before together. So
I think so. Yeah.
I'm just there for the cheese. We're gonna eat lots of cheese.
Is that a thing? Super Bowl and cheese?
Yeah, Super Bowl. It's like you don't have like a meal. You just have a bunch of different dipping sauces. Like everybody brings a dip, and then you have like the cheese boards and a lot of food that you can dip and drench in cheese.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All about the food. Well, funnily enough, we've had quite a lot in common because I've spent this month making costumes as well, but for a whole different reason. So on this weekend, I'm flying home to Switzerland for a month. Very much looking forward to that. And then towards the end of the month, Nick flies over to come and join me because we're going to go to Carnival. It's Carnival time again. So I've been making our costumes for that. Go over. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but have a look on social media. I will be posting undoubtedly. It was a real negotiation this year, honestly, because I wanted to go for a certain costume, and he was like, no, vetoed it. I think we had...
Oh, what's the theme? Is there like a theme every year, or...
Oh, no, it's like anything that you want.
Okay.
You can make... But obviously, as a... Like, if we lived in Switzerland, we probably would go with like a group of friends, and we would then have a theme that we go as a group. But we have like a theme as a couple, and not that you would notice it this year because, never mind. But it was
That's the first thing he vetoed right away.
The first thing that I suggested, which was going to join like my friend's home and their group, but it's a whole bunch of girls, and he was like, no, Barbara, I am not wearing a dress, which is like, it's fair enough, but we could do like a male version. And he's like, no. So I was like, okay. And honestly, I think we had two sessions in the pub of just discussions and negotiations of trying to get onto a theme that we both agreed with, because all of his suggestions were lame, of course, and I was like, no, you can't do that, that's not funny, or you can't really dress up, but then eventually so we found a compromise. We've got a theme. So I'll tell you all about it next month.
Okay, good. I'll be looking for the pictures.
So we had that, and also it's just been a really busy month with Young Tongues. The first week in January, I don't know why we always do it in the first week of January, but we have our board meeting, and that means I come back from Christmas holidays and I have to throw myself in the deep end to do all the reports, all the financial stuff, everything that we've done over the last quarter. I sort of summarize in a report and then have the meeting, and that just took over like my entire week. But that was good because I had to, sometimes you just have to do the admin, But then because I'd focused on that, and then I suddenly went, oh my God, it's the second week of January and I haven't scheduled our virtual meetings yet. I've had like lots of like in-person meetings, lots of things to announce, and I just hadn't got around to do it. So then I went to schedule the virtual meetings, and then I was like, oh, hold on, we've got this new CRM system, and actually I want to do the registration system differently, and I want to do this differently. So then, of course, I went down an entire rabbit hole of doing things differently. So then, instead of just announcing the virtual meetups, it took me well over a week to try and set this all up and do that, which means the in-person meetups have still not been announced. Sorry, guys, I will get there. But it also means, like, and I say this with the exception of patient messages. So if I get an email from a patient or an inbox in one of our social media from a patient, I pick it up straight away. But everything else in my emails, I ignored. I just totally ignored. So there are emails in my inbox from like late December to now. And if anyone's going like, why has Barbara not like replied to me? I am so sorry, but it's escalated. It's now, oh my God. So last week at one point it peaked at 250 unread emails. And I know. And I'm someone who usually, my inbox is like a 0, right? And there might be like 5 or 6 in there because they're tasks and things and they're not super urgent, but not like, oh my God. So And then I got myself into a bit of a quagmire with fatigue and overwhelm, and I've just been like staring at my inbox and not doing much about it. So unless it was like something that needed dealing in that second, in that moment. So yeah, that's gonna it's my task. It's just to like I just let it get out of hand, and now I feel like I need to just face the music and get on top of it again. And there'll be lots of things, that are. But yeah,
you just have to do on like the stack of things, just whatever's on top. I do that, then that, right? Set your timer. You gotta do your timer.
Do my timer.
I'm gonna show you something that's gonna make you feel better about your emails. Okay. I don't know if you can see it. That says 21,000 unread emails. Right there.
Oh wow, that has made me feel a lot better.
It's like I remember I was at Disneyland and I was with my friend Holly and I was texting something and she like just casually glanced down and like freaked out at that number. It wasn't even that high probably then, and she was like, "What?" I was like, "It's a bunch of spam. It's like stuff I don't like. I read all the important ones."
Yeah,
21,000. So for you to say like your inbox usually is at 0, I was like, wow. I gotta get it together.
It has to be. Well, and to be fair, it's not like it's the Young Tongs inbox. And it's weird. Like, okay, there's always some spam stuff. There always is. I don't know how people get hold of my email address and try to sell me stuff that I just don't need. I'm like, no, go away. But there's like lots of newsletters and stuff that I subscribe to because, it is good to know what other people are doing. And also I always like highlight it because I then want to like put it on our social media, but then of course I run out of time and I'm like, oh okay, this is past now, great. Bugger. So yeah, best intentions don't always fully executed, but yeah. And then I have like I have my normal to-do list, and then every day I try and do a little bit, but I think at the moment it's just every admin job sort of spirals into a bigger sorting things out. And maybe it's the beginning of the year, whereas like maybe last year I was like, okay, I just need to get this email out and I'm just going to get it done. And now I'm going like, I should have really just taken the time to properly set up the CRM system and properly set up all the branding on our mailing system. And it's just like, okay, Barbara.
It's a lot. Yeah, exactly. Just do what you can do, and it'll be okay.
Yeah, and it'll be fine. But we had lots of exciting stuff, and obviously there was World Cancer Day this week, and I was invited to go to a really exciting event down at Westminster by Macmillan. So Macmillan in the UK are sort of your cancer nurses. Okay. And they do cancer support really well. And they had a big event, but they're a really big charity. And little old me was invited, and it was so lovely. And it basically was so BBC broadcaster, like your news anchor, who has had throat cancer in the past, and with the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, which it's quite a big deal to be in the same room. They were having like a Q&A, and our government, the UK government, has just unveiled that they've already committed to do a national cancer plan, but they've just now opened it up for us charities to feed into it with our evidence. So we've got until April. So my to-do list, again, I went back to my to-do list. I was like, okay, this all of this stuff, shift over to the summer, make a hole. Because this is going to be it's a really big, important piece of work. So anyone listening, keep an eye out on our private Facebook group, because I'll probably be starting to ask questions and surveys and stuff, just so I can feed in some basically just to make sure that all our voices are heard in what we are going to be proposing or asking the government to do. If they do it or not is a whole different question, but at least we then make sure that we are heard. And obviously in the future, if you're listening to this and go like, oh, but I'm in the US or in Canada or in Italy or wherever, if I can stick to my timeline of getting stuff done by July, that's when you guys will have the opportunity to come and join the Young Tongues and start doing the same type of work in your country, in representing the Young Tongues. So again, keep an eye for that. I'm really sorry. I keep saying I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. I will get to it as quick as I can.
You will. Well, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. Like, wow, that's it. It's going to be really good to have. Like, I can't believe that even the short time that you have Young Tongues, like how much it's getting out there. Like, I think it's incredible, everything so far. So
yeah, it's really cool. And I'm, you know what, I personally, I have a really big interest in, like, well, in America as well. The only trouble I have is I don't really understand the system, and I don't really know how we can do things. And, you know, it does worry me that I know it's really difficult at the moment because I never quite know how much we're allowed to say and not in terms when it comes to politics in the US. And ultimately, I think we're as neutral as we can be, as we don't take sides and everyone's, you know, has their own opinions. But when it comes, you know, you read certain articles and it comes to policy change. So I know that a lot of research money has been halted for, you know, whatever reason. I do feel like the Young Tongues can collaborate with established American organizations and have our American Young Tongues get involved with some of their work to really make sure that young people with tongue cancer are represented in the discussions had in terms of, you know, funding being in the right places, support being in the right places, and yeah, the larger picture, larger challenges at large. I said larger many times then. So yeah, anyhow, you guys get what I mean. I will get there, but it's all just, you know, one step at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually, we're
gonna get there.
Yeah, and that actually brings me to the discussion point that I wanted to touch on today. It's a bit different today because usually we talk about what's going on in our life and things we've gone through, and actually we kind of, well, we've not got to the end of our story because we're still living it. But I wanted to pick up on something today that has been a topic in the Facebook group, and it keeps coming up over and over. And I just want us to have a bit of a discussion. I think it's interesting because we come at it from 2 points of view. Jamie having had radiotherapy and me not having had radiotherapy. So there's been discussions about whether to have radiotherapy or not to have radiotherapy. And the first sort of caveat I want to put out there before we continue this discussion is that as an organization that wants to make sure that you are as healthy and as safe as you can be, what your doctors, your clinical team says is really important. And we would always recommend to lean on that information if there is a choice. And if you're not happy with it, you are entitled to get a second opinion, but use what the clinicians are telling you with all their years of experience to make an informed decision.
Absolutely.
Now, with that in mind, many people, including you, Jamie, I don't think you ever got a choice whether to have radiation or not, did you?
No, they always present it to you like a choice, but they present it in a way that's like, you need to do this, but we're going to make it sound like it's your choice. But you know how, like, so, you know, it's almost like a persuasive, like, essay that they're presenting, like, this is my opinion, or like, to try it, but it's in a way that's like, I'm not telling you you have to do it, but I'm telling you you have to do it. I don't know. I guess how that's how doctors present things, right?
Well, I think it all depends on the histology and how advanced your cancer is, and in how many lymph nodes they found cancer cells, and ultimately what they are telling you, and this goes to anyone listening, is that if they're saying you really need radiation, it's because you probably really need radiation, and it is a choice between not having radiation but limiting your life expectancy, because it is incredibly highly likely that your cancer is either still there or will return. And that radiation gives you a much better chance of survival, and well, sometimes curable, sometimes life extending. So that's both. There's been a lot of talk about percentages. Someone sort of mentioned, if I had radiation, it's only going to increase my likelihood of 10%. Now, I don't know where the information comes from or where that communication was picked up. I don't know if that was told to this patient via the healthcare professional, or if they picked that up from the internet somewhere through a study. I find it incredibly difficult to think in percentages, because what does it mean? Numbers don't mean anything ultimately. So I think there's always, I need to add a really big piece of caution when you are thinking in percentages and likelihoods, because also what you don't know is what data or what patient population that number is based on. And it's most likely, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but let's be honest, it's most likely that it's based on the entire patient population, which includes young people and the elderly patient population. It might even include cavity tongue cancer, base of tongue cancer, mouth cancer. It might include a bigger section of similar cancers in a similar area, but not the type you have. It also might include HPV negative and HPV positive. These are just factors that you don't know, and as soon as you question them, and unfortunately most of us will never find out what the data is based on, then let's be honest, that whole percentage thing is totally irrelevant, because it gives you no guidance.
Yeah, and as it was presented to me with radiation having to be the next part of after surgery, it is presented, I don't know if in the US, it is presented, and they do talk in numbers, because I remember being very fixated on the number that this will increase my life expectancy by X amount of percent. I remember them, that's how they presented it. They led with the numbers, and I was like, well, I'm in that, well, it's math. Here's the numbers. Math doesn't lie, right? They look at, because they have your chart and they have all the calculations, but you're right. What is this number coming from? Is it coming from all head and neck cancers of everything, or just a very specific age demographic, this precise tongue cancer on this side? You don't know, but what you just see is the numbers and what they're telling you, and be like, oh, this will increase your life by life expected, if you don't do it, then you only have this percentage to live. That is how they present it.
Yeah.
So and it's hard to not think about that, because it's your professional, it's your oncologist, it's your radiologist, presenting it that way. In the U.S., I don't know how I mean, every doctor is different, but I do remember fixating on numbers, and then it not being it. Not now I'm nope, it's different for everybody.
Yeah, and also that's when I said the histology, in terms of the clinicians will make recommendations on the basis of of lots of different factors. It's not going to be just one factor.
Yes.
So we sometimes, we hear people talking if it was contained in a cell, or if it was I can't remember the technical term, but basically near a nerve, or if there was a good margin, if the margin was a bit questionable. There are so many different factors. So I would not only fixate on the numbers, but really actually on what your healthcare professional is trying to tell you. And I know it's really difficult. I know it's really difficult, especially for an individual that might not trust their healthcare team, which, let's be honest, in our community is not uncommon, because when we trusted our healthcare team, lots of different people, a lot of us have this experience where we're initially told, oh, it can't be cancer. It won't be this. It won't be anything bad. And then you find out it is cancer. And if you've been unlucky, you've had to wait a long time to get that answer and have the biopsy. And that whole that extreme swift from it's not cancer to it's cancer, unfortunately, does lead you to question everything. I think that's totally normal. Absolutely normal. And I feel for any max-fax surgeon or oncologist who's not their fault, right? They're the person who actually diagnosed your cancer, who have to navigate that distrust and build that relationship with you, because I think all of us can agree that any healthcare professional treating you just wants the best for you. Nobody wants you to go through unnecessary pain, but also nobody wants to take the huge risk of not giving you the best chance possible, right? And at the same time, mistakes do happen. And we see it in our community. And it's so difficult to navigate that as a patient. And I'm not saying I have the answer here, because I feel exactly the same way. But I just feel like when we're trying to make these incredibly difficult decisions, it's all those different aspects that we need to remind ourselves and go like, okay, how much is this my emotive reasoning? How much of this is factual? How much of this am I feel confident in and not confident in? And what do I need to do in order to feel confident?
Yeah, and it's hard to take a step back when you're in the moment of, going through it, because it's just like talking to the doctor. Like, I remember after surgery and then having the conversation about what is going to happen next, being like, okay, like it's hard not to take the emotion out of it, because it's like at that point after surgery, you're like, yes, for me, I was like, what do we need to do to just get this over with so I don't have to deal with this again? Because I let the emotion be like, whatever I need to do, I'm going to do it. Because I was so fatigued, I was so tired, and a lot of the times they're presenting radiation like right after surgery, because that's when they know. So I think about the state of mind you're in at that too.
You're already quite vulnerable from the surgery.
Yeah.
So for me, obviously, I had this dilemma where I had, so just for those that don't know, I had stage 1 tongue cancer. I had spread into one single lymph node, and it was contained in the node. So that's the information we had. And the decision wasn't made for me. The decision was 100% mine, which at the time felt an absolute impossible place to be in. Because actually in my multidisciplinary team, I had 2 people, and they actually disagreed with each other. One felt I should have radiation, and the other one felt I shouldn't have radiation. At least that's how it was presented to me, right? So it was very much sort of a 50-50. And I reflected on this the other day, because I remember going away from this appointment with my husband and just looking at him and going like, what the fuck? I mean, seriously, I'm not, how the fuck am I meant to know what the right decision is? I didn't study this. I have no experience.
Yeah,
what do you want
totally.
from me? Yeah.
It's
And
like,
I remember,
you tell me what to do. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah.
And oh my God, that.
and I remember
yeah.
being incredibly angry of like, how dare you put this on me? Like, then you, but now actually with the, with the gift of time, I look at this a bit differently, because actually what they did is they empowered me to do a choice, a very difficult choice, but that I could stand behind. And I know I'm saying this and everything went to plan, right? How would I feel if it had come back? I don't know. I just don't know. Can't tell you. But what I remember in the moment at the time, like someone asked me the other day, like what it felt like, and I did this really awful analogy, but I said like, yeah, it's quite bleak. Sorry about this, but it was like, it's basically they put my finger on the trigger of the gun of a Russian roulette game, and I just didn't know if the bullet was in there or not. I didn't. But it was my finger on the trigger, so I couldn't blame anyone if it went wrong, if I ended up, and I was just, I guess, lucky at the moment, to touch wood, that it seems like the decision I made not to have radiation was the right one for me at that time. But there was a lot of information I had that helped me make a decision, and one of them was that the oncologist was against having radiation, and the surgeon was more pro. And I thought, well, if the guy who would administer the radiation is thinking, I don't think you need this, then maybe I gave a bit of weight to that. And then the other big thing for me personally, and again, please don't use this as your decision making, but might be worth asking the question. My question, I had two things. I said, do I still have cancer? And they said, we don't know. I said, okay, head fuck.
Great.
Great, okay.
Okay, I need to change my second question.
Yeah. And then the second thing, I was like, well, if I have the radiation now and it comes back, what's the plan then? And they said, well, you can only have radiation to that place once. So if we radiate it now, we don't actually know where the cancer is, if it is still in there. So we're going to blast quite an area. If it turns out to come back on the other side, or just on the bits of that area, then we can't radiate again. So we're out of an option. So I was like, okay. And then the counter argument of that was, but if it does come back, it will come back furious, and it will be way harder to treat than if you have radiation now. And that's a really important part.
Okay.
And it's something we see in our community, for anyone with recurrence, is if it comes back with a vengeance, and it's so much harder to treat. And that was the choice, wasn't it? That was the gamble. So in the end, I went like, okay, I'm 32, I don't have children, I've had a good innings, I am gonna take this 50-50 gamble. And it was 50-50. I just I didn't know if what I was doing was the right thing or not, and I went for a wait and watch approach. And I am just incredibly bloody lucky that poker game went my way. And there's other people in the community who did the exact same decision as me, presented with the exact same evidence, didn't go for radiation, and he came back way harsher than if they would have had the radiation there and then. If you're listening to this and you are in this situation, I don't know if this discussion has been helpful or not, but I just felt we need to bring it up. And the other aspect to bring up here, and I think, Jamie, you can speak more to this, is radiation, no joke, eh? It's brutal, and it does leave you with really long side effects.
Yeah.
But Jamie is the living, breathing proof that you can have a quality life, although different, after radiation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about how you were presented with that information by these medical professionals and how they were like, I think you should do this. No, you should do this. And it was like, wouldn't you guys discuss this before presenting it to me? Wouldn't you guys come to like in a courtroom, the jury has to agree on one thing before you present, before you tell me like.
Funnily enough, Jamie, turns out that was a ploy. So it turns out it was so marginal that they couldn't make that decision for me. Like, they just couldn't. They needed me to make the decision. And so one of them took on good cop and the other one took on bad cop. And once I made my decision, they both went, yeah, we think that's the right decision. I'm like, oh, for goodness sake. You couldn't have just said that. But
what the hell?
But in a sense, they needed me to make the decision what my tolerance of risk is.
Yeah.
Right? So if my tolerance of risk is fairly high, which it was, then and it's a gamble I'm willing to take, then you can take it. But if my tolerance of risk is, for example, if I had like a young baby or a young family, I don't think I would have made the same choice. But in which case, I needed to be okay to live with the consequences of having radiation. Especially if it's not clear cut what's the right thing to do.
Can I ask how, once you were presented with the information, how long, like, did you take a day to think about it, or did you tell them like then and there, or like how long was it? Like,
no, they sent me home, and I think it must have been like 48 hours.
Okay.
But if I needed more time, I'm sure they would have given me more time. But at the same time, with radiation, you don't want to delay these things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because they really make the time argument with it too.
Yeah.
Which I will talk more on that, because mine was during lockdown. But to go into how it was presented, so I remember I didn't go in. I was home, and they called me because it was during COVID. So all my appointments were pretty much done over the phone, which was weird because I couldn't really speak well after surgery, as many of us who are listening, after been going through tongue surgery, and then to be on a phone call and have someone understand you, and especially making a decision like this and to ask questions, very difficult. So I had my husband with me, and we were sitting there on speakerphone, and they were like, it spread to the lymph nodes. This is, we suggest radiation. I think there was like 4 of them on the call. Oncologist and the radiologist, and that's who I met. I met her. That was the first time I met her through the call. I don't know who the other people were. Maybe the person who did my neck. I don't know. But it's like, we recommend radiation. This is how many we recommend, and this is it's going to be the max that we can do, and they just went right into it. But then at the end, it's been like, you let us know what you want to do. But it was never like, well, it could go this way or like that way. They were like, you're going to do this. And they presented it be like, you're young enough that these side effects are probably something you're going to be able to handle. Whereas if you were older, we wouldn't recommend this, because the radiation is going to be harder for you to recover from after if you were older. And they meant like older, like if you were like 60 plus, like that's the comparison they made for me. So I remember just sitting there, and I couldn't really talk, and my husband's there, and it's almost like I couldn't even ask any questions. He was like, yeah, we're gonna do it, because he's looking at me, and I was like, well, yeah, because like they presented it in a way that's like, this is what's gonna extend your life. I have 2 kids, like, yeah. And again, I was just like, do whatever you need to do. And I made the decision, right? That like, obviously, I'm like, yeah, of course I'm going to do the radiation. You just told me, like, if I want to be alive, I should do that, like, in so many words, right?
I think that's the important thing. I just want to highlight, I had spread into one single lymph node. I asked them what would have happened if I had... And it contained. Right. And I asked what would have happened if it was in 2 lymph nodes. I said, we wouldn't be having this discussion. You'd be having radiation.
It's that's very important.
It's really important. So, and that lymph node had actually been removed, because it was, came out with the dissection, and there was no evidence of there being any more. So I'm just, what I'm conscious of is that there, and I'm really torn in two from a welfare perspective as an organisation as well, because on one hand I think it's great that we've got patient empowerment and patient looking at radiation and going, not just the side effects going through treatment, as brutal as they are, but we know that's sort of temporary, but also the long-term effects that unfortunately just like follow you for the rest of your life, and that's a much bigger deal to people, and I totally understand that. But it's when we have people in the group who've been recommended to have radiation, who are questioning whether to have radiation or not, that's when I personally, and I'm just going to, tell you my personal feelings about it, I really struggle, because I understand why you don't want to have it, and I can't tell you to have it because I didn't have it. It makes me a hypocrite. But at the same time, I really want you to think really, really, really about this, because I don't want to paste a tribute post about you in about 6 months' time. I really don't want that. I much rather you do what's right for you, but I much rather you can get as much time and as much quality of life, and everything's great in the end. I appreciate that doesn't always happen either, but yeah, it's just such a difficult topic and decision. I don't know, and I just guess I'm looking to you, Jamie. You made it through treatment, and you're now on the other side of it quite a few years, and you're having to deal with the long-term effects, like getting up at 4:30 in the morning to prise open your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, it's brutal, but I also went in, with the mentality of, I'm young enough that I'll be able to, I'm gonna bounce back. Obviously, some things did not come back, but it takes a while to heal from it. But yeah, I'm pretty much back to normal, to how I feel really good. But there's just little tweaks that I have to make in my daily life. But I'm still able to do the things that I want to do, and I'm there for my family. So looking back now and everything I had to go through and the lifelong side effects, it's nothing that you can't handle. It's it's manageable, but it did take some time to get to the manageable point.
And just saying, it can most definitely be devastating as well. I don't want to minimize any of the experiences.
No, not at all.
And it's devastating, and it impacts, and it's shit, fucking annoying that you're like, oh, this is finally better, and now this thing comes, and unfortunately that's just this really stupid treatment, and I wish there was something else available to us instead of radiation, but it's just unfortunately where we are right now. And I do see a role for Young Tongues and anyone listening, and I'm hoping that we will get there soon, Barbara and her to-do list. But I really want, when we are working on the patient hub on the new website, and all of you are going to be pitching in, I really think having a resource like that can also help manage long-term effects in terms of looking out for things. So you go, oh yeah, I'm starting to get a niggle there, so you don't wait several months until you see someone. Or when you do see someone, which, it's most likely not going to be your cancer team, but a different type of healthcare professional, that you are provided with the language, the data, and the examples to maybe push back. Recently had a guest on the podcast who said, I went and saw someone because my neck was really hurting and in pain, and they just told me that's radiation. That's just comes with it. Well, it turns out this person had a really bad case of fibrosis, and by delaying treatment for fibrosis, you make it worse. So again, if this person might have, this is a longer time ago, but before maybe the Young Tongues existed, but might have had other people with the same experience, could have gone, well, actually, but this person in my community has had exactly the same symptoms. Can we do some more? that's when I feel like we really need to self-advocate.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. That would be incredibly helpful to say. Yeah, exactly. You ask all the questions. Yeah, I bring it up no matter what. If you think it could be this, I bring up everything to the point where it's like you've been Googling. Well, no, actually, I've been, like, but I'm feeling that I'm heard now, whereas before, when I was told, no, it's not cancer. Now I feel like all my little all the little questions I have and every little bump or, anything that is like, wait, that wasn't there yesterday. I'm going to call it, like, I'm heard. I feel heard with my doctors.
That's really important.
Yes.
That is really important. Sometimes, unfortunately, lucky shouldn't be. Yeah, it's weird. It's something that's come up a lot lately is being heard, and healthcare professionals, and I'm just going to say professionals across the board, tuning in and really listening. And unfortunately, I don't know if it's a cultural thing or the way people are trained, or it's the workload and it's the stress. It's just unfortunate that we hear too many stories where that hasn't happened. And that can be, actually, I'm not even talking about the diagnosis part, because we kind of know what the problem there is with primary health professionals, with GPs and dentists. We kind of know those things, but it's more later on, later in treatment. We're reeling at the moment at the community, someone complaining about a pain in their collarbone and being shrugged off and saying, no, it's nothing. And it turns out it's Mets. And that's just like, really? Really? Yeah. And these are, the people who are treating this individual. They are at the top of their game. They are top professionals. Why aren't you listening?
Yeah. It's, I feel like, it's different for everybody. And my case, like, I feel so lucky because anything I brought, they're like, yeah, let's get you in. Yeah, let's get you. I want to have it, like, my doctor. It's like, yeah, I want to have a scan. Let's just biopsy it. Let's just, like, they're doing whatever. I feel like they're doing whatever they can. Like, they're hearing me, and then they're like, yeah, let's do that. So they're always taking an action to what I'm presenting. Like, but I know that's not the case forever, but I'm at this point now with my doctor where, like, I trust him and we have a good rapport, and I feel like every time I bring something to him, he has, like, an action that will help put me at ease or put us, but, like, he's like, yeah, I hear you and I understand why you were questioning that.
So I guess at the end of this episode, I just wanted us to have, like, an open conversation about that whole choosing whether to have radiotherapy or not to have radiotherapy, and also the distinction between some people who do get to choose. And it's, actually, I'm now kind of, I wasn't in that time, but I now retrospectively I'm kind of for that, because how could someone who doesn't know me make decisions on how I feel about risk, what I'm willing to risk, what not? So in that sort of very specific example, but also kind of lay bare the dangers of going against recommendations, but also acknowledging that I can understand why sometimes the trust between you and your health professionals is broken. So I think the best sort of input that we can get is, like, you're always entitled to a second opinion.
Yeah.
I would always make sure that person has a PhD, because there's a lot of doctors out there, just,
Oh, yeah.
Just saying, make sure that they are an oncologist and clinician. But also that, radiation sucks and everything that comes after sucks. And it's unfortunately a reality that we are having to grapple with. But look at Jamie. Look at gorgeous Jamie, who is, coordinating children and directing shows. And
Yeah, guys,
And
I yell at children every day. So the point that I can yell now is like, I made it. I made it through it. I can yell at children. Like, I went from not being able to raise my voice to now like yelling at 80 kids. Like, I'm living the dream. No,
hey, no, Jamie, you know what? I know this sounds funny and we're laughing, but actually, that's huge. And
I know,
that is
right?
real huge. And people who haven't had tongue cancer will not understand what an achievement it is to be able to just yell at a group of 80 children and be heard.
Yeah, like I could yell. Granted, like I'm yelling, but I still like my voice is done by like 7 o'clock at night. Probably why I go to bed early. But the fact that I can yell and be understood, and it's not just you fucking kids. I wasn't able to yell before, so now like radiation, it's shit. Like I always say it was the hardest thing I've had to do, and it is. Like, that was harder for me than the surgery, but you make it through, and it is manageable. So it's, if you're listening and you're trying, or if you're going through it, and I get message all the time, like, I'm in radiation right now, and what do I do? And it's different for everybody, but it does, you will get through it on the other side. Like, it's manageable by after a certain point, but it's a long healing process.
And don't forget, there is a community there for you with now, nearly 700 people in the Facebook group alone.
Wow.
We've got other groups as well.
Yeah,
and
helpful.
Yeah, and I can understand that sometimes with these groups it can be a bit much. You can mute it, you can leave it, you can come back. You can totally use it in the way that you feel is best. But I do feel like sometimes sometimes you don't even need to ask a question. Sometimes you just need to go in and go, "Hi, I'm Larry, and I am going through radiation right now, and I'm just really, really sad." I know I can confidently say that you will get a really lovely warm hug from a virtual community of people who've been there and get it and just cheer you on. So that's really, what we're here for, what we're here to do. Yeah. So on that note, Jamie, it's been so lovely to catch up with you again. Even at 5:30 a.m. in the morning. Well, nearly 6:30 now.
It's my favorite way to start the day, seeing your lovely face and chatting. Yeah. It's going to be a good one.
Oh, yes. And next month, I will tell you all about my shenanigans of my fancy dress and Swiss Carnival, and hopefully some cold lake dips.
Oh, my favorite. I love those.
Yeah, the lake is currently, I asked my mum the other day and she said it's about 3 degrees. So I shall report back, hopefully in one piece and not as an ice block. And yeah, thank you so much for everyone listening and being with us. We love you guys. Make sure that if you aren't already part of the group and you're a young tongue cancer patient, survivor, or actually a carer of someone with tongue cancer, we've got a group for you too. Come and join us. Follow us on social media. Leave us some reviews on the podcast so other people can find us too. But also, if you want to tell your story, come and spend an hour with me. Send an email to podcast@youngtonguesglobal.com. We're currently booking in people for April, so we record it in April and then it goes out about a month later. So would be amazing to hear all of your stories as well. Jamie, so lovely to see you again, and I hope opening night is a full success.
Oh, thank you. I am so excited. Okay, all right, I gotta go. I love you. I'm so happy to be here, but I gotta go.
Bye-bye.
Bye.